While I was assisting clients at my shop, the SMS message arrived. I'm relocating to Miami with my 20-year-old girlfriend. And I'm leaving you behind. Ha ha. I've already spent all of our combined funds. As I read it, my hands remained still. As I assisted Mrs. Peterson in choosing a scarf, my voice remained steady. The sole indication that my 12-year spouse had just texted me to end our marriage was a small tightness of my eyelids. I typed my response after waiting for Mrs. Peterson to leave with her item wrapped in our coveted silver paper. I wish you luck. I'm Claire, and I recently had the coldest farewell in history at the age of 38. However, I was quietly closing my store for the day while Mark was presumably reveling in his spectacular departure and picturing me crying over his treachery. For months, the indicators had been present. His pay deposits were never matched by the late evenings he worked. His phone's password abruptly changed. He had started buying new clothes, frequenting the gym, and trying to relive his youth. I discovered a receipt for a two-person supper at a fancy restaurant 3 months prior. On a night when he claimed to be working late, I had created another bank account at a different bank that same evening. When he said he wanted to merge our accounts to make things easier a week later, I gladly agreed and transferred my own funds to the new account. He has just drained the joint account. It had just enough in it to prevent him from becoming suspicious. He had been making regular deposits for approximately 2 months. He had securely hidden away the remainder, along with thorough documentation of each questionable transaction he had made during the previous 12 months. Once more, my phone buzzed. Don't even try to plead. Tomorrow, Melissa and I are going out. Later, I'll send for my belongings. Melissa. Melissa was his office's new receptionist. I had met her at the office Christmas party, and I had seen how she caressed Mark's arm when she thought no one was watching and laughed too loudly at his jokes. She was innocent enough to believe she was unique and young enough to be his daughter. His text went unanswered. Rather, I contacted my attorney, whom I had already visited when I discovered the hotel spending on our credit card account 2 months prior. I just said, "It's time." He simply took action. "The documents are prepared," she said. "Tomorrow morning. I'll file them first thing." Should I have him served in Miami, in your opinion? Don't hurry. First, let him believe he has won. Mark texted again. "I am aware that you must find this difficult. After all, you're not getting any younger. At least you can keep yourself occupied with your small store." I have a small store of my own. The profitable store I had created from the ground up. He is the one whose income surpasses that of his middle management position. I had taken care to keep his earnings separate from our joint account. Thinking of the official documents that will welcome him in Miami made me grin. Allow him to relish his victory. I stayed at our place that night. I had inherited my home from my grandmother, and I continued to maintain its ownership despite Mark's persistent requests to have his name included on it. It had been another fortunate instinct. I discovered our wedding album while sorting through the documents my lawyer would require. Before his midlife crisis transformed him into a parody of his previous self. Mark looked quite different. He tried too hard to fit in with the 20-somethings at his job these days. Wore shirts that were too tight for his softening midsection, and used lingo that sounded absurd coming from a 45-year-old guy. His texts, each more patronizing than the last, kept flying across my phone. "This has been months in the making. Melissa knows me better than you ever could. You'll be all right. Perhaps you'll meet someone who is closer to your own age. I've already informed my relatives. They concur that we drifted apart. Really, no one is to blame." I took a snapshot of every communication and saved it in my evidence folder. Allow him additional time to uncover his deceit. His delighted declaration about emptying our account and his nonchalant admission of premeditation would be adored by my lawyer. The final sentence caught my attention. "By the way, I booked our accommodation and airfare using the shared card. Think of it as my farewell present." Excellent. I gave the credit card business a call. "Mrs. Harrison is speaking. I have to deactivate a card right now and report fraudulent activity." "Yes, ma'am. Are you able to recognize the charges?" "Today, 2 first-class tickets to Miami were purchased. The Royal Palms hotel fees. Additionally, I'll have to take my spouse off of the list of permitted users." Have you any proof of the fraud? After depleting our bank account, my husband admitted via text that he booked a trip with his girlfriend using our joint card. I will gladly forward them. When the agent canceled the charges, her satisfaction was evident despite her professional demeanor. When Mark and Melissa got to the airport tomorrow, their tickets would be deemed invalid. They had to cancel their hotel reservation. Once more, my phone buzzed. Don't stress over the house. Until you find something smaller, I'll let you remain there. That one really made me laugh aloud. Did he genuinely think he had a right to my grandmother's house? Had he forgotten whose name was on the deed because his ego had grown so big? One more buzz. And I am aware of how much the store means to you. We can agree on a reasonable amount for your share. My share of my concern. Although he grumbled about my long hours and referred to them as my hobby, I had developed, funded, and grown myself. The fine wine I had been reserving for a particular occasion was poured into a glass. This was eligible. Mark will discover some harsh realities regarding property law and different assets tomorrow. However, I would relish the silence tonight and make plans for my next chapter. Mark sent off a barrage of progressively irate messages in the morning. How on earth did you damage our credit card? Our tickets will not be honored by the airline. Our reservation was cancelled by the hotel. Respond to me. After turning off my phone, I went to my store. Our biggest day is always Friday. And I had to unload a fresh consignment of high-end handbags. Even if your spouse cheats on you with a receptionist who is young enough to be his daughter, life still goes on. His mother called at lunchtime. Mark told us everything. Dear Claire, about your level of control. You pushed him away. He says, now you're being vindictive. He adds, causing issues for his planned trip. As I set up a window display, I placed her on speaker. Did he mention using our credit card to purchase tickets for him and his girlfriend and draining our joint account? Quiet. Next. Okay. You left him with no choice. He said, you've been distant and cold. I have his texts. Barbara, is it okay if I read them to you? He boasted about stealing our money. Right? Or the time he made fun of my age? One more pause. He did come out as a little mean. I informed him that the SMS message was not suitable. Thank you for calling. Barbara, you've always appealed to me. However, I believe it would be better if we stopped talking now. Throughout the process, my lawyer has suggested that we have little contact with Mark's family. How about the proceedings? Already? Barbara, goodbye. By the end of the afternoon, Amanda, Mark's sister, was using common friends to propagate family rumors. Melissa and Mark appeared to have found themselves stranded at a budget hotel near the airport. Their hopes for Miami were momentarily dashed. He had been using his personal credit cards to the limit for months. I had spotted another warning sign. My attorney gave me an update over the phone. We have scheduled the emergency hearing for Monday. We are in a favorable position to freeze any remaining assets because he admitted to emptying the joint account. And there is proof of credit card theft. Has someone yet served him? He will pick up the documents at his new hotel location. But not yet. In relation to that, his girlfriend's social media accounts are offering compelling proof. She has spent the whole day writing about their vacation, including some scathing remarks about you. The thought of my own documentation made me grin. The documentation included a year's worth of dubious charges, hotel invoices, and premeditated SMS exchanges. Mark had never thought that I may be observing, waiting, or getting ready since he had been so preoccupied with his big escape. Another text buzzed across my phone. You believe you're quite intelligent. However, I copied all of the boutique's financial documents. I own half of the company. I added the text to the expanding list of Mark's errors and sent it to my attorney. Let him discover the hard way to own a firm and separate its assets. Being ready is sometimes the finest kind of retaliation. Monday's emergency hearing was more than I could have imagined. Mark arrived wearing a jacket that shouted midlife crisis and expensive pants that were too tight for his age. In the bright courthouse glare, Melissa's youth was painfully evident as she waited outside. My attorney meticulously presented our evidence. Each piece was meticulously gathered over months of silent surveillance, including Mark's joyous text about draining our account, his credit card fraud, and his documented history of unreported spending. My client acknowledges making some snap judgments. But Mrs. Harrison's actions have been spiteful and cunning. Your Honor, we quickly recruited Mark's counsel. My lawyer responded. Calculating. Do you mean cautious? My client kept thorough records of her husband's questionable actions and safeguarded her own assets. It's not retaliatory. That's shrewd business. The boutique's incorporation paperwork in my name alone. The distinct property deed to the house. And the meticulous division of business and personal finances, all of which Mark had consistently grumbled about, were examined by the judge. In a direct address to Mark. Mr. Harrison, the judge acknowledged in a text message that you had purposefully used shared credit cards and drained a joint account to pay for a trip with your girlfriend. Do you not believe this? Mark stirred uneasily. All I wanted to do was start over. Is financial fraud involved? The judge's eyebrows went up. Are you now asserting ownership rights over property that is clearly distinct from marital assets based on documentation? Throughout our marriage, the company expanded. Mark's attorney made another attempt. My customer has a right to. According to my lawyer, the business was founded before the marriage. And Mrs. Harrison strictly kept her personal and professional funds apart at all times. We keep records of every dollar earned and invested. I observed Mark's expression as reality began to set in. This should be simple, he thought. Run off with his girlfriend. Empty our funds. And maybe take half of my company in the divorce. He had called my meticulous bookkeeping excessive and never cared to comprehend why I insisted on keeping things separate. The judge declared that there was enough proof of financial malfeasance. In anticipation of the eventual breakup, all joint assets are frozen. Any money taken out of joint accounts must be returned by Mr. Harrison within 24 hours. But Mark said, that money's gone. We used it. Then, I advise you to figure out how to swap it out. The judge cut him off. The use of joint credit cards to finance excursions with lovers is frowned upon by the court. Mr. Harrison, I overheard Melissa asking Mark about their plans for Miami outside the courthouse. The sound of my heels clicking confidently over the marble floor as I returned to the company he had never understood or appreciated drowned out his response. Over the course of the following several weeks, Mark made a series of progressively desperate actions. He attempted to say that he had come up with the idea for the shop. He recalled making investments throughout its infancy. He even implied that he had been my company partner from the beginning. But my thorough records swiftly refuted this. My lawyer noted that he was becoming desperate. According to his girlfriend's social media, they are currently residing in her studio apartment. It seems that living off of a receptionist's pay isn't quite the glitzy getaway he had in mind. The tone of Mark's family's initial allegations significantly changed when they began to seek clarification. Amanda, his sister, said, we didn't know. He said that you had been aloof and domineering and that he had to go away. His messages revealed the manner in which he boasted about stealing your money. I didn't think I knew that brother. When his mother phoned again, she was crying. I raised him better than what he said about your age and about being replaced by someone younger. In any case, I firmly believe that I had done so. Their calls ended up in voicemail. Their support could have been significant a few weeks ago, but now it appeared as if they were abandoning a failing venture. Ironically, the local rumors about my predicament helped the boutique flourish. Women began to arrive expressly to provide assistance, many departing with considerably more than they had intended to purchase. While purchasing a fancy handbag, a buyer said, my ex tried something similar. Men like him never expect us to be more intelligent than them. Even if he would take everything in the divorce. Even now and then, my phone would ping with texts from Mark, whose tone alternated between manipulation and rage. You've destroyed everything. I didn't mean to offend you. You'll be sorry you were so spiteful. Can't we come to an agreement? Without my help, that company would not exist. Without replying, I sent each mail to my attorney. Give him more time to dig his hole. I had received rumors that Melissa was re-evaluating her decision. It seems that living in her studio apartment with a middle-aged guy who was unable to afford a home of his own wasn't the romantic experience she had hoped for. In the harsh light of reality, the age difference that had looked exhilarating during covert hotel rendezvous felt different. During an update call, My lawyer noted that she blogged yesterday about learning from mistakes and unhealthy relationships. And this morning she deleted her relationship status. Mark almost made me feel terrible for him. Nearly. However, once he informed me that he had depleted our account, I suddenly recalled his hee. I was struck by his casual disregard for my age and his assumption that I would be helpless without him. I felt something other than pity. Pride. Pride in my ability to predict. In my silent might. When he underestimated me, I was able to defend myself. Mark's anticipated victory was very different from the final divorce hearing. His arrogant demeanor vanished, to be replaced by barely disguised fear. Melissa was conspicuously missing. Rumor had it that she had moved on to a coworker her own age. Mark appeared wearing his old clothing, and it seemed that the expensive wardrobe came back to assist in paying back the joint account that he had depleted. His attorney was worn out, most likely from searching for errors in my recorded asset split. Finally, Your Honor, Mark's attorney attempted to demonstrate that, despite the distinct property documents, my client contributed to the success of his wife's business by providing moral support. My attorney cut me off. Are these texts criticizing Mrs. Harrison's company as a small business? Or are these posts on social media describing it as her pastime? Clearly, the judge had had enough. My meticulous planning was evident in the final settlement. I retained my business, my home, and my personal belongings. Mark received his automobile, which was worth less than what he owed on it, along with his personal belongings. As we walked out of the courthouse, he snarled, "You've destroyed me. I'll have to return to my parents' house." "No, you ruined yourself, Mark. I only made sure you couldn't ruin me as well." At 45, his mother was waiting outside, prepared to take him to her home. Nobody missed the irony of his predicament. While I ran my successful business, the man who mocked my age lived in his childhood bedroom. "You had this planned all along," he said. "You anticipated this." "No, I just listened. And unlike you, I saw the need for maintaining accurate records." We were separated by his mother. "Mark, that's enough. You've already embarrassed yourself." I heard her close in on him as they left. "What were you thinking? Really? Did you really think you were 20 years old? Bank accounts being drained? Are you sending those awful texts?" I was relieved as I saw them go into the parking lot. With that terrible text, Mark had believed he was penning our story's conclusion. Rather, he had just initiated my meticulously planned strategies. This time, my phone buzzed with alerts of new orders from my boutique's website rather than texts from Mark. Life was going on, but not in the way he had envisioned. My store had grown to a second location 6 months after the divorce was finalized. I didn't miss the irony. The little business that Mark had abandoned was flourishing as he battled to repair his life. I had opened an internet business that was becoming popular across the country and employed 3 additional staff members. Through common contacts, word of Mark's predicament spread. When he explored dating apps, he discovered that middle-aged guys living with their parents didn't appeal to women his age. Younger ladies avoided him after learning about his past through office rumors. Melissa shared images of his frantic attempts to get her back after she left, presumably warning her friends about him. His career also took a hit. His connection with a subordinate was the subject of an inquiry by the company's Human Resources Department, which led to a formal reprimand. Someone else, who had no prior history of improper connections with reception personnel, received the promotion he had been hoping for. During an unplanned visit to the shop, Amanda informed me that he attempted to allege age discrimination. He claimed that they were punishing him because he dated a younger person. HR has just added that complaint to his file. Although I was taken aback to see his sister at my shop. Her appearance was a clear indication of how much Mark had estranged his own family. She ran her fingers over a silk scarf and said, "I know we didn't support you at first. He did a great job playing the victim. But after seeing how he handled things and behaved thereafter, I'm sorry we ever trusted him." My attorney informed me of Mark's ongoing efforts to contest the divorce settlement. We rejected each petition and his allegations of unequal distribution, based on evidence of his own actions. She laughed as she informed me that he honestly attempted to claim that his text about emptying the account was a joke. The court questioned if humor lessened the severity of stealing. The success of the boutique provided unanticipated validation. Local business journals wanted to tell my tale as a wise entrepreneur who had safeguarded her interests, rather than as a disdained wife. Young company owners sought guidance on how to keep their personal and business funds apart. I told one young woman who reminded me of Melissa that preparedness is the greatest defense. Furthermore, it's crucial to always trust your instincts. Every now and again, generally following a particularly self-destructive act, Mark's mother would call, in an attempt to find a quick solution to his financial issues. He had attempted gambling online. He had fallen into a pyramid scheme that promised quick profits. Every effort to return to his previous way of life only made matters worse. During one call, she lamented, "I don't know where we went wrong with him. If he simply accepted responsibility for his acts, his father and I would assist him in getting back on his feet. He continues to blame everyone else. Though, he continues to blame Melissa, you, his business, and the judge." I listened respectfully but kept my distance. I no longer had to deal with their family issues. With plans for a third boutique location and a potential foray into luxury accessories, my life had progressed. The sole memento of Mark's influence on my life was a framed screen grab of his last text before I blocked his number, which was displayed at my workplace. "Enjoy your small business. It will at least keep you occupied until you are old." My most recent business award was below it, proving that sometimes the greatest retaliation is just to achieve on your own terms. I held a grand opening for my third boutique location a year after the divorce. The local media took notice of the occasion and wanted to report on something other than my failing marriage. It concerned the growth of a prosperous businesswoman's brand. In my success narrative, Mark's treachery had been reduced to a footnote. Melissa entered abruptly during the event. Perhaps I simply felt stronger. Or perhaps she was younger than ever. She moved uneasily and gripped her handbag tightly. "I must apologize to you," she whispered softly. "He told me that you were cold and domineering and that you didn't back his aspirations. And I believed him. Then, when things became difficult, I saw him attempt the same manipulative techniques on me. I kept setting up a display of high-end sunglasses. Melissa, those were escapes, not his dreams. There is a distinction. Now I am aware of that. He attempted to move in when you froze the accounts," she said after pausing. "I assumed that my studio apartment would only be there temporarily. I realized the distinction between fantasies and getaways after he spent 2 weeks griping about my closet size and recommending that I get a loan for a larger space. That really made me giggle. I assume he had ambitious ideas but lacked the resources to support them. That's right. After his investments paid off, he received that promotion, and the value of his cryptocurrency undoubtedly rose. Everything was going to be all right." She gave a head shake. "I'm now seeing a person my own age. We live in a tiny apartment and have college loans. But at least we're making progress." "Was that the girlfriend?" my assistant manager said after she left. "No," I said. "I got the same lesson from that woman as well." Speaking of lessons, I pointed to a young couple who were looking at our high-end purses. "Let's discuss your suggestion to add more items to our collection." The boutique was no longer only a company. It stood for self-reliance, fortitude, and the value of preparedness. Young business owners frequently sought my guidance, and I consistently emphasized the importance of protecting their assets. Mark's mother gave me a final call to express her gratitude. Not to talk about Mark. She said that you had taught our family a valuable lesson about condoning misbehavior and justifying harshness. Mark continues to live at home and attributes his troubles to other people. However, we are no longer supporting him. Your legacy to our family is that you taught us the difference between helping someone and making it possible for them. As I went over the designs for a fourth facility, I considered that legacy. Mark had planned on devaluing me, exchanging me for a younger model, and stealing half of my creations. Rather, he had unintentionally encouraged me to grow stronger and more accomplished. My lawyer texted me, and my phone rang. Mark submitted a second petition to review the agreement. The judge ordered him to pay court fees and dismissed it right away. "I hoped you would like that." I grinned as I remembered him in his bedroom as a youngster. still attempting to change a conclusion that had been decided the instant he undervalued me. Getting better rather than getting even is sometimes the finest kind of retaliation. 2 years after Mark sent me that hurtful text, I received an invitation to speak at a women's business conference. It had nothing to do with treachery or divorce. It was about creating and safeguarding a profitable company. My narrative had changed from being a warning to being an inspiration. One lady inquired about keeping personal and corporate funds apart during the Q&A session. My spouse claims that I'm being overly cautious and that marriage entails disclosing everything. I responded by saying that my ex-husband had stated the same thing up until our divorce. When he attempted to take half of my company. Have faith in your intuition. Paranoia is not protection. With each new store being more successful than the last, the boutique chain has expanded to 5 locations. The small store that Mark had made fun of now had 30 employees and had been highlighted in a number of national publications. Common acquaintances informed me that Mark had finally moved out of his parents' house into a small flat above a garage. His previous employer had reduced and eliminated his position during restructuring, forcing him to accept a lower-paying employment. Even though his profile picture was obviously out of date, he was nonetheless described as youthful at heart in his dating profile. Ironically, Melissa had established herself as a frequent client at my first store. She founded her own social media consulting firm after receiving her business degree. She once told me that you impressed me, demonstrating to me how a woman can create something enduring rather than succumbing to false promises. I kept Mark's hurtful text message displayed in my office as evidence of my progress rather than as a reminder of my suffering. A sign that said, "Success is the best revenge," was hanging beneath it. I spoke to my staff and devoted clients as I stood at my initial boutique's 5-year anniversary celebration. The area had transformed from a small store to the flagship location of a thriving company. Even though I hadn't invited her, Mark's mother came. She didn't approach me until the mob had subsided. She smoothed her luxury clothing, which she had purchased from my store, and remarked, "I saw Mark yesterday. He was discussing his heyday and the life he may have led. He tossed everything away in the divorce. But he still doesn't realize that he didn't lose everything." I thought about that text message. His casual cruelty, his belief that I would fall apart without him, and how he had expected me to plead, break, and prove him correct about my desperation. Rather, I had created something more robust than before. Every new boutique location served as evidence of what women might accomplish if they quit lowering their standards for men who were insecure. Melissa, the young salesperson I had recruited last month, stopped by with a query regarding the new inventory system I had put in place. I noticed my reflection in the store window as I described the procedure. I witnessed what Mark had missed 5 years prior, a woman growing older, but also wiser, stronger, and more accomplished. His harsh text message should have come to an end. It had been a beginning for me and all the women who heard my story and realized their midlife crisis was not theirs.